Here we have the current stock market update for Super Microcomputer Incorporated, stock ticker SMCI. Before we begin with today's chart analysis, if you find these educational materials to be helpful, please remember to click the like and subscribe buttons and leave your thoughts below in the comment section so that other traders can find this information more easily on the platform. So what we're looking at here is the hourly price chart. Each candle on this time frame represents a 1 hour trading period. And as we can see, we have had a little bit of a bounce here into this most recent trading session. We're starting to give back a little bit of those gains at the moment, but there is some evidence here that we are starting to find a base. So this near-term low currently comes in at 44.62. So we haven't actually broken through that prior price low that was seen yesterday. So overall, this is some encouraging price movement. I mean, if we were to look at these shorter term timeframes here, we would see that some resistance levels have broken on, for example, a 5-minute price chart or something like that. So, at the moment, this is encouraging from a short term perspective. We just need to see some evidence here that a top is, not really in place at these prior resistance levels. So, what we were looking at previously here was this 40.60 area. And as we can see here, this current high comes in slightly below there. It's actually 48.40. So, this area that we have been watching here has held up actually quite well as far as resistance levels are concerned. So, this is really the resistance level that we're watching at the moment. And, this is starting to obey technical analysis, which is not something that can really be said very often for Super Microcomputer. This thing really has a mind of its own. It pretty much does whatever it wants. So, at the moment, this is sort of the range that we're dealing with, 44.62 to the downside, and then roughly 48.60 to the top side. We would really like to see this area break. If you have a long position, this is kind of the key now to the top side, this 48.60 level. So, we were correct in sort of pointing out that area previously. We're getting some resistance here. So, the ideal scenario at this point, would be a move like this. We do need to see that area break. If we do see that occur, we're looking at a retest of areas that are at least $2 higher. And, overall, if we just sort of pull back here for a moment, just sort of look at the broader picture, I do think that it should become obvious here that, we're putting a lot of pressure on the top side here. I had this sort of debate with someone on a different stock recently, where he was saying that, this type of resistance area where you're seeing a lot of price action in one area, he was trying to say that this means that there's more resistance in that area. And I was taking the opposite position. I don't think that's true at all. I think that if you're starting to see major consolidation zones heading into a point of resistance, in my view, that means that resistance area is much weaker. If you want to look for an area where, resistance is much stronger, we could point to a prior spike high. I mean, like, for example, let's look at this area here. The point that this other guy was making was that this type of situation, I don't know if we can see that on the top of this price chart here, but, this resistance level at 96.34, he was trying to make the argument that this means that there's not much resistance here. That the exact opposite is true. What this means is that this 96.34 area has much stronger resistance, and that's why you don't see very much activity up here. You see one price candle that sort of moves into this region, and then you see a major decline following that. This is a perfect example of how that debate should have actually worked out. This is a serious resistance level. But when you start to move into areas like this, my position here is that this is a much weaker resistance level. Like, yeah, you're seeing a lot more activity here. Share prices are having difficulty breaking to the top side, but, share prices aren't being rejected here significantly. They're really kind of holding on to this area. And in my view, what that tends to mean is that share prices will break to the top side. The same thing would be reversed if this was a support zone. But if we're continuing to sort of pressure this area, in my view, what this really means, it's sort of like, the police, they go to someone's house and they have a battering ram and they're trying to beat down the door to get into somebody's house, to get into a criminal's house or something. If you beat against that door enough, eventually that door is going to fall down. And I do think that, the door here is right around that $50 level, roughly 48.60 to 50.60. So if you just sort of beat into that area enough, eventually, at some point that's going to start to break. And in my view, I mean, yeah, there is, the stock is having trouble breaking above this area. But for me, I would look at this as a breakout that's imminent, as a breakout that's ready to start forming. We have had some evidence that some weakness is here. We've even got a little bit of a head and shoulders pattern that is attempting to form itself here. But the break to the downside has been a bit minimal here. I mean, you could make the argument also. We were looking at this area here, roughly 45.50, as being a potential neckline for this head and shoulders pattern. 54.30, 50.60, and then roughly 54.35 again, right around this area being a head and shoulders type of pattern, and then 48. What is this? 45.50 roughly being the neckline here. And we were seeing that share prices were sort of moving lower. But it's not a convincing price movement, and you could really make the argument that the neckline is actually holding. Sometimes these price levels don't work out to the penny, and you do have to look at the broader signal rather than just the minutia, the technical signal that can be seen on just the short-term time frames. So, if we do start to see a break upward here and possibly a break above this right shoulder, I would be perfectly comfortable saying that this head and shoulders pattern has been invalidated and that this really wasn't a break of the neckline. I mean, it was just sort of a slight, slippage breach through that area. So, overall, I am still viewing this as though we're putting a lot of pressure on the top side here. Here, we're not seeing any forceful resistance breaks, which in my opinion means that this is not a very strong resistance zone. It is still holding up at the moment for the most part, but we're not seeing any significant rejections here. I mean, share prices are sort of bouncing lower, and we have moved into below $45. This 44.62 area was a little bit concerning, but we're managing to hold the upper end of this trading range overall. I mean, if we just sort of zoom out and look at this, from a bit of a longer term perspective, we can see that most of the price action is at the top of the range. And I think that eventually, you beat into that door enough, eventually it's going to break down. So we're not there yet. We haven't seen a breakout yet to the top side, but I do think that is the most likely scenario here. I do think that currently a breakout to the top side is likely to be imminent. So here's the current stock market update for Super Microcomputer, stock ticker SMCI. Our high value trading strategies membership is currently available for a limited time for only $9.99 per month. These high conviction investment strategies are characterized by superior risk to reward metrics that target massive market beating returns over time. Join now to outperform the market. Lock in this special introductory rate of just $9.99 per month for the entire lifetime of your membership and start trading stocks with the pros.